A wolf in Wall Street clothing. That's how the Prime Minister described his opponent today, saying Reform claims to be the party of patriotism while voting against workers' rights. This explosive confrontation reveals just how heated the debate has become, with both sides locked in a battle that's rattling Westminster. What do you think? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications to stay updated.
Very good evening to you. It's all been a bit muggy in today's heat, hasn't it, across Britain? And I reckon the Prime Minister is feeling it.
There are those who are firmly stuck in the past. Take Farage. When you ask him about Clapton, he thinks it's running in the 210 at Ascot. A wolf in Wall Street clothing. Because Reform claimed to be the party of patriotism while sucking up to Putin and abusing our armed forces online. They say they're the party of workers while they vote against workers' rights. Nigel Farage isn't interested in Wales. He's interested in Nigel Farage.
Well, that was Sir Keir Starmer speaking today at the Welsh Labour conference, and it's probably no surprise to see Reform has the Prime Minister rattled once again, because in Wales, polls suggest Labour, which has led every Welsh government since devolution, will come in third place behind Reform as the biggest party. But this obsession with Reform and Nigel Farage isn't just about Wales, is it? This was Nigel Farage living rent-free in the Prime Minister's head in May.
Nigel Farage. Unlike Nigel Farage, which Nigel Farage have done the same, you have to ask about Nigel Farage. I'm from Farage. And unlike Nigel Farage stands for none of this.
That was Keir Starmer mentioning Nigel Farage 16 times during that one speech, and later that month, he was at it again.
Against it, Russia, China, Iran. And surprisingly, the leader of the opposition and Nigel Farage are in that column alongside Russia, China and Iran, rather than the column that has the UK and its allies in it.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you just get the feeling the Prime Minister should be focusing more maybe on improving the country and indeed saving his own job, rather than the party he mocked this year for being able to fit in the back of a taxi. As James Frayne writes in The Telegraph today, Sir Keir Starmer's personal polling ratings are so awful that some Labour backbenchers are beginning to question whether he can survive until the next election. His first year in office, which he'll mark next week with a major climb down on welfare reform, has been catastrophic. Of the Prime Ministers since Thatcher, only Gordon Brown had a worse net approval rating at the same stage in his premiership. Well, let's get the thoughts now of my panel. Journalist and broadcaster Linda Jubilee, the former Labour Special Advisor Paul Richards, and the former Scotland Yard detective Peter Bleksley. Welcome back, panel. Paul Richards, why is the Prime Minister so obsessed with Nigel Farage, especially, as mentioned, when his own approval ratings are so bad?
Well, Nigel Farage has established himself as somebody who wants to be the Prime Minister of our country, and if you believe the polls, if there was an election tomorrow, he would be the Prime Minister, right? So it is right for Keir Starmer to scrutinise him, to question him, to try and shine a light on the policies such as they are, to look at the candidates they have, the people who are elected as councillors and so on, and not let them get away with it and just being a sort of sideshow.
I thought they only had 5 MPs.
They are now a serious potentially governing party. They need to come under that spotlight. So that's what he's doing. And by the way, I've read the whole speech he gave in London this week, today. It mentions industrial strategy, it mentions the steel workers, they're launching the 10-year plan for the NHS next week. There's a lot of stuff going on beyond that as well.
Just quickly, so if reform should be taken seriously and scrutinised and so on, why does the Prime Minister make jokes at the dispatch box about the number of MPs they have?
Well, because at Prime Minister's questions, you have to make jokes, don't you? That is part of that's what's the parliamentary system. I think that's an interesting point. I mean, you're right, of course. You shouldn't big up your opponents and use their name, but they've obviously decided inside Downing Street that you can't ignore it. You can't just pretend it's not happening.
But that's the problem. You can.
And so the strategy is to try and expose it and to shine light on it. Now, we'll see whether it's successful or not. But,
do you know why it won't work? I'll tell you why it won't work. Because in this Ipsos poll, which is in the Daily Express, it turns out that 2 out of 3 Britons do not know what Sir Keir Starmer stands for. And the reason they don't know what Sir Keir Starmer stands for is because I don't believe he knows what he stands for. And that is the first rule of strategic communications. He has to have a purpose, he has to have a vision, he has to feed it into his strategic narrative, and it's not happening.
OK, cue Peter Blexley.
Do you remember when he was appointed Prime Minister and he said, we will be a government of service?
Yes.
And we'll be there for you, and all that other drivel that he came out with. Well, here we are, a year later, and what a catastrophic year it has been for Starmer, his acolytes, those who surround him, and this failing cabinet. Let's take a butcher's, if we may, at The Observer, the front page of The Observer,
Let's take a look.
Where it says, regrets, I have a few. Well, that's a line, ironically,